All right, so you said he began to look for a store. Okay. All right. Okay. So he began. Now you said he went to the store. He looked for a store. So since he looked for a store, what did he look at in the store? Let's bring some stuff in there. Did he look for bread? Did he look for juice? All right. So let's put some stuff inside. I'm going to say, well, he looked for some bread. Right? Someone said bread. He looked for some juice. What else? Some meat. And we say chips. Some people like chips. Hmm? No, it's not. It's not good, but somebody wanted some chips. Can we say healthy chips made of vegetables? Or we can just say chips is regular chips. It's not too healthy, but you want that little crunch with your munch. And now what we're going to do is this take our time and write about what you're doing in the store. Okay, everybody is going to write about what you're doing in the store. What do you got? What's your time in the store? That's what we're doing now. The whole purpose of writing a book is taking the information that you have out of your mind and put it in paper. See, we already learned about the front of the book. We already learned about the back of the book. We already learned about the spine of the book. We already learned about the blog. We already learned about the introduction. We learned about, the pages, what's in the book, the content pages. We learned about the chapters. We talked about, you know, whatever you have a picture of on the book, that same picture has to represent what you're writing. That's what you got to do. That's what you got to remember. Because with putting the book together, right? Putting the book together is easy now. You're starting to pull out of your head. You're starting to pull out of your head, different parts. You know, like we was talking about bodega, or you may don't have a bodega. You may have a deli, Sam's Deli, or Tom's Deli, right? And what you're doing at the deli or delicatessen, and so on, who says it, you might want loaf of bread. All right, so you over there getting a loaf of bread. All right, and you saw, okay, I got bread, I got meat, I got juice. What type of juice you gonna put in there? See, the more colorful you make your writing, the more colorful you make your writing, the better your book structure is. The more pictures you put in a person's mind with your verbal contact, with your verbal contact is the direction that you find yourself in. All right. So now everybody should be able to just give a little bit about what they wrote, and we're going to listen, and then we're going to go to the next stage. Because remember, our function now is we already did the part, let's make a book, right? Now we're going to do what we're going to put inside the book. So that's what we'll be doing next week, is by the grace of God, and we will probably change a floor mat, but the whole thing is it's still going to be Let's Make a Book. But this time we got the whole part of the book now. So now we're going to put something in there. We're going to try to do poetry, because I think poetry is one of the beautiful ways of expression. So we might say poetry in writing, or we might say a word from your thought, or the thought from your words. We want to make it jiggy. We don't want to make it so perfect that it blows your mind. We want to make it in a sense that it moves you. All right? So we're going to do poetry and writing, or writers and poets. That's another good one. Writers and poets. We're going to put all that together. All right. Sis, would you like to share what you wrote?
Okay. I listened to what you said. You said he began to become very hungry. Then he looked for a place to eat at. He looked for a breakfast place. This is mine. He looked for a breakfast place. He found one. He sat at the table near the counter. Then as he sat, the waitress came over to take his breakfast order. She let him know what were the breakfast specials, and he told her he wanted the pancake special.
All right. That was beautiful. See, the more you put stuff in the, right, the more colorful it can be.
Yes.
You see? So I would say to you, that's beautiful. And if you don't mind, I want to add something to what you said, right? Um, what color was her dress? What color was okay? White and gray. You put it there.
No, I didn't put it there.
No, I'm just saying you can. You can still build from what you're doing. Like you can put, all right, the lady wears white and, she had white and gray. Did she have a fishnet on her head? Did she have a hat on her head? What type of? Yeah, go ahead.
Why is all that important? That's
Oh, because
not important. No, it's not important. Sometimes less is more. And I'm sorry. Sometimes people don't want to be. I'll tell you the truth, because when I read, I hate all that extra stuff that is useless information. When I'm wanting to get to the story, I want to find out what is going on. I'm an impatient reader, and I know there's a lot of people like me, because when I went to high school, we had study groups, and the ones that were like, oh, this is so fun, I will get mad at it and say, well, I don't want to study with them anymore. So I always kind of picked the kind of people that were like me, that just wanted to get to the story, get it over, because we had other things to do. And I don't like reading a book with so much useless information. The dress was not important. I mean, to me, I feel the dress would not, what she was wearing would not be important. What she had on her head would not be important. She told him the breakfast special, and maybe I could have added, the breakfast special.
And there's nothing wrong with that. That's why we have clip notes. You know what clip notes are?
Yes, I do.
Yep.
Exactly, and I use them a lot.
Yep. That's why we have them, because just like my sister said, see, that's why it's so important. This is your book.
Right.
See, a lot of people say, no, da, 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 da. No, this is your book. Like you said, no, this is my book. All right. If I want one line on it, it's going to be one line in my book. You want a long book, you do your own book. And that's the beautifulest thing about being an author.
Right.
And
then there's also different writers. There's writers that will put every detail in.
Detailed writing. Yeah.
And especially if you're a high school kid and you have to read 50 books during the summer, all that useless information cuts you from reading other books and keeping your grades up. I I'm the kind of person that I don't like mysteries. I don't like horror stuff. So I just like to get to the point, read it, and write my book report, whatever I have to do, and then go on to the next thing. I don't want to be spending 50 million times on a book that's putting me to sleep.
I I support your statement. I support your writing style. You know, and that's why I tell people when you write your book.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? It's like for those who didn't hear her, what she basically saying, she just wants the main idea. When she writes a book, it's like Clip Notes, and Clip Notes basically gives you the main idea, to you understand what's going on. And that's what you can do when you write your own book.
But they also give you the interesting stuff that happens in the book too, not the boring stuff.
Yep, I like that. Yep. So that's why I always tell people, your book is an open canvas. Okay, it's an open canvas. Whatever you put in that book is what you're putting in because it's your book. Me, I'm gonna put. I don't know. I'm old school. I remember what my teacher told me when we was writing. If you want people to read your book, right, let it be about you. Make it interesting. But just because you think it's interesting to you does not mean it's interesting to the other person. Always remember that, people. As my sister said, more is a lot.
And
A
plus
lot of.
you have to, it's the audience that you want to connect with. If you have school kids, you can't be writing like you want to write. You have to write for them. You have to consider their time, their education, and what their chores are. Because I don't know about you, when I was in school, you had to read 50 books before the end of summer. I didn't have much for summer because I had to spend it reading. So uh, I couldn't, books like yours, I would just try to skim through them. And if I could find a movie, I would see the movie. But I wouldn't read it like that because I just couldn't. I would read all the other books first, the ones that were, straight to the point and, there. And then maybe if I had time, I would go back to a book like the one you want, where it had all this information that was not pertinent to what my brain needed.
And that's beautiful. See, that's why I tell people, and I say it.
You have to remember what kind of a crowd you want to sell.
Yes, you gotta. I couldn't have said it better than that, sis. You have to remember the crowd of people, the group of people. The genre that you write has to be according towards the people that's going to read it. You don't want to worry about ice cream and Vinay talking about dressing up. You want to stay on the topic. And that's the thing. So what I want to do is just move a little bit. I'm glad you said what you said. Thank you. I want you guys to understand when it comes down towards writing a book, there's many styles, right? But it has to be the style that you're looking for. Okay?
You have to want to write, like if I were to write a book, I would want to write it for high school kids.
Okay.
And
so your genre,
yeah.
So you're going to write for her genre is going to be high school kids. This is for high school. So you probably talk about math. You'll probably talk about recess, right? You might talk about gym.
No, that's not the kind of thing. You want to tell a story. You want to tell a story, whether it's historical or whether it's your story. But you don't want to make it where, I don't know if they still do the thing where every Sunday you have to read 50 books, because that was a long time ago. That was in the 70s. And education was way better than it is now. So I don't know if they still have the same programs where if you start ninth grade, the first thing you do is when you get to 8th grade, they give you a list of 50 books that you have to read. You go to 10th grade, summer comes, you have to read another 50 books. You go to 11th grade and another song, you have to read another 50 books. And it's a lot of them are according to what you're going to study in English and in history. A lot of them are history books, and a lot of them are English books. You know what you're going to do. Like I said, you're doing history. Yes, and and you want to keep it to that to the curriculum that the school sets. You know, you want to write your book in that curriculum. Whether if you're thinking of writing a book that you want to tell some part of history, you know. Yes.
That makes a lot of sense. People see, I like when people participate and they share. You know, they share. They put inside um, a part. But what I'm going to talk to you guys about. What time? How much time we got? Let me see, because I don't want to exceed my time.
10:45.
10:45. So let me try to make it speed it up a little bit. All right. I want to say this to you guys, and I want if you guys can write it down, if you guys can memorize it. Make your book interesting. All right. Make it interesting, and you got to remember, no matter what is interesting to you, may not be interesting to the other person. You know, me personally, when I was taught how to write a book, when I went to school and they taught me how to write a book, right? And I went to a writing class and they taught me how to write. One of the things one of the things my teacher said, you know, when I was in Yale, right? When I was in Princeton, right? When I was in Adelphi, right? When I was in high school. When it comes down to writing, make it interesting. And that's what I do. When I write, I put a lot of stuff inside there. So anybody who, you know, reads my book, you know, I always get people that say it's complicated. I don't understand it. It's too much work. And then what I have to do is say, okay, I did it the way my teacher told me to do it. So now I'm going to make it less complicated. I'm going to ask people, what do you want to hear about? How much information you want? How many pages you want the book to have? I mean, there's a big difference between 1,000 pages and 25 pages. Most likely, you know, 100, right? And it's all more than 200, right? A little bit? Okay. And on the average, a book that has 200 words will really be 24 pages. 300 words will probably be something like 28 or 30 pages. Depends on the margin, depends on the font size. But mainly you got something to read with. You see, like when I write books and I publish them on Amazon, I got to follow a certain guideline. If I'm going to do a kid's book, I can do 7 pages, right? But they got to be 7 pages that make sense. I can do 7 chapters, right? But it got to be 7 chapters that make sense. You see, it has to make sense. It has to follow. Okay, that's one of the things us writers have to do. Your new writers as well. Whatever you write has to make sense. Okay, and I want people to always realize that. My time is getting short, people, so in a few minutes I'll be leaving. But I want you guys to understand when you write, right? When you write, the whole thing about writing is coming down to a point of putting your thoughts, all right? Putting your thoughts into paper. That's what writing is. It's putting your thoughts to paper. So what I will say to you is this. Make your writing fruitful. Make your writing with meat. You know, give yourself some stuff. Like you see this book I wrote, right? I I put pictures in here, right? Got pictures, pictures. And I did that because I wanted the book to be fruitful. I wanted the book to have flavor inside it, a taste inside it. So I just want everybody to understand when you do a book, when you have a book, when everything is in there, make it fruitful. Okay? Make it fruitful. Um, the person had a shirt. What color was the shirt? You know, let me give you an example. And Jim had a blue shirt, had collars that looked like it was pointing to the sky. The color was so blue it was radiant. The coat of that color was a deep blue. He had 16 white shiny buttons. You see that? It gave a description. It gives you something to see how the shirt was. And if you talk at his shoes had buckles, 3 buckles. It was brown, it was pointy, it was shiny. The heel was dark black, had a bit of heel. Talk about what is a bit of heel. It means it's a heel, but it's not that big. And you talk about his pants, or her pants. So he was wearing a pair of bell bottoms. You can tell it was bell bottoms because it was about ringing back and forth. He was a thought man. He was a fat man. He was a skinny man. Whatever you say about this man, right? Whatever you say about him, you want to make sure you put it in a direction that it goes into your story. Okay. Mommy, what time is it?
One side, 10 and 51.
At 10:51? Okay, that gives me 10 minutes to time. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, so people, I'm going to wind up everything, and I'm going to just always tell you guys can do it. I want to say thank you for participating. I want to say thank you for coming in. Remember, this is our last class. Let's make a book. Now we're going to do Let's Write Poetry. All right? Let's write poetry. Okay? All right.